Son of Earl, Steve Earl, and let me tell you that it's got a good group of people, musicians on there. As a matter of fact, I noticed that Amanda Shires is on there with him throughout, and she was somebody who came to the Steve Fest 3 years ago and just blew us all away. I mean, she's something else.
Yeah.
Fantastic musician. We've got. What else is happening in our community? Well, we've got elections coming up, and it seems that we've been reading about voter purge and things like that, and there's a politics and voting is played by some people like a chess game, and as a matter of fact, they have no qualms about trying to keep certain blocks of voters from voting. They have no qualms about getting their vote out versus the other. And if somebody fumbles the ball, then they're happy to pick it up and run with it. And so it's not pure. Even if you have a general, more pure notion that people should vote in elections and that the popular will should have some can say so. We're not really a democracy. We're a representative form of government. There's always been some resistance to this notion of general voter quality. I mean, people don't really trust the voters, and so they try to get just their voters to be there instead of all voters. Well, there's people in Charlotte County who have become fake candidates in order to keep people from voting, and that happened in the property appraisers race, and it's happened in most of the races where you have someone who doesn't want independents and Democrats to have a say-so if they haven't put a Democrat or an independent up for the general election. Now, you can disagree about whether each of the clubs, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, whomever else, Socialist, whatever, that they're all supposed to make their own decisions and then send somebody to the general election. And well, if you don't send somebody to the general election, too bad, then our guy who we sent wins because nobody stood in opposition. And so what happened was when one party gets dominant, then they want to make some changes. And it used to be the Democrats were dominant down here and Republican couldn't vote. And then there was a shift in demographics as people moved in from places where they were Republican. And so moved in a lot of Republicans into what had been the solid Democratic South. And then what happened is during the 60s and 70s, the Southern Democrats started realizing that they really were more aligned philosophically with the national Republicans rather than the national Democrats. And so there was a lot of Southern Democrats that shifted in the late 70s into the early 80s, and that trend, there was a huge demographic shift as people realized that their philosophical views didn't meet the party that they were aligned with. And so the Republicans in Southwest Florida in particular became the dominant party. And unless you're a Republican, you didn't get a chance to vote because the decision was made at the primary as opposed to the general election. And so there was changes made to the election laws that said if only one party puts up somebody so that really the general election is happening at the primary, then that opens the primary up for everybody to vote. And so in order to not let Democrats and independents into the primary election in what some Republicans consider their private choice, and so what, you didn't put somebody up so you don't get a choice. The people who don't like the change in the election laws that allow an open primary play chess and play games with the process, and people like Don Wald, who just moved to town, ends up, because he wants the Republican that he likes to be the only one in the race, instead of having an open election in the primary for the property appraiser, Don Wald becomes a fake candidate. I mean, his wife already made a contribution to Paul Polk's opponent in the election, and so their family is really, they've already made a decision who they want, and now they're trying to game the system in order to keep independents and Democrats from voting in the primary concerning Paul Polk for property appraiser. And so Don Wald, the fake candidate, brand new here, who wants to game our election process, has caused some problems. As a matter of fact, I now have a huge pressure on me. I was the Democratic Executive Committee chairman in Charlotte County back in the 1980s. I became disgusted with this kind of party politics gaming, and I resigned from the executive committee and resigned from the Democratic Party and became an independent, because I don't like the gamemanship that the partisans play, because they're not playing for us all, they're playing for power as opposed to good. And so fake candidates like Don Wald, who just moved to town and want to game our thing, has now got me under pressure to change to be a Republican in order to vote in this election, in order to stop that kind of mess that he's making. Well, as a matter of fact, I know a lot of Democrats and independents who, because of this race, because it's so important that somebody that's not gaming the system but really is a lifelong Charlotte County resident, 25 years of property appraiser experience, is going to try to get gamed out of it. So now, in order to support Paul Polk, if you're an independent or a Democrat, you have until July 19th to change your registration. And you can change it, and you can do it just for the primary, and then you can change back. And I know that there's going to be a landslide of people doing that. You can get your Florida voter registration application from the supervisor's office, and it's very easy to change your party affiliation. You have until July 19th to do it, and I recommend that you do it. For philosophical reasons, because I am an ideologue, I do care about it, and I won't be a Republican, and I won't be a Democrat again, and so I'm going to be stuck being an independent, and so I'm not going to get a say-so in it. But if party label doesn't mean that much to you, I'd say flood the Republican Party with your and sign up and become a Republican for the primary, so that you can stop the fake candidates like Don Wald from controlling our election process. Fake candidates, I don't have any respect for them. And I can't believe somebody moved into our community and wants to do that to us. That's what happens with rootlessness, with you don't have anybody who's really a peer around, so that you can come in and you can jerk people around like that. Good job, Don.